Hey everyone, welcome to Sales 101, the B2B Sales Classroom. We're your hosts, Donald T. Kelly
and BJ Allen.
And we're super pumped to be able to have you join us today. We're going to be tackling a topic that's pretty much awesome. But if you haven't listened to our podcast, let's tell you why we want you to listen. This podcast is designed for educators who are teaching the next generation of sellers. We want you to learn all the tricks, strategies, and ideas that can best help teach the next generation of salespeople. In today's episode, we're going to tackle one of those, which is mindset. And some of you may be saying, mindset, that ain't got nothing to do with closing. Well, we beg to differ. BJ, let's talk about this. Let's go into this for a little bit. Tell me a little bit more about why you feel so strongly about mindset.
Yeah, so if some of you are new to sales, I don't know if you know this, but sales is really hard.
If we go back and review this video, you just saw his face. It was not only in his demeanor, it's in his voice. Someone who's experienced those rejections.
Sales is hard. It's hard to get told no all the time. It's hard to take it personal. It's hard to stay motivated. Sales is repetitive. And so when we were designing our courseware, we said, hey, one differentiator we think we could put in it that's not in traditional textbooks, but that is critical as we talk to sales leaders about sellers that separate what separates good from great sellers. Mindset continually comes up. And so we put it in there and we started teaching it. And as we started teaching it, our motivation to keep it in there and continually discuss it just grew, because when we talk to students about the things that were most beneficial for both their sales career and life in general, this is something that continually comes up, is having a fixed versus growth mindset, borrowing the content from Carol Dweck about mindset, fixed versus growth mindset. So talking about the difference between those and how to have a growth mindset, how to recognize that you have a fixed mindset and how to change that. Students told us over and over again that this was one of the most beneficial things that they learned. And so, yeah, now I am all in on teaching this concept. And sometimes as I'm talking about it in class, I feel like I'm giving a TED talk. Like, you can do it. You can keep going. I feel like I'm Tony Robbins up there, like giving a motivational. But
just don't have them walk on fire, BJ.
Yes. I get more and more passionate about teaching every semester, because as we teach it, more and more students, we've heard from more students, hey, this was really helpful. I really like that we talked about this. So this is why we're doing an episode on mindset, so that professors know how to teach this in the classroom.
I feel like it is one of the areas that I least understood and least paid attention to from the very beginning. I had motivation, BJ. I mean, I was at that point out of college, I needed to make money. I needed to help my family. And it was in my case, was very frustrating, because here I did 4 years at university and I was in my sales career, but I wasn't seeing the results. And it was, like you said, it was hard. It was frustrating. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Should I go get a different job? And it was, I knew that there could be success from it, but also that and I had to get to a reason, the motivation, right? And that, like what you were saying, I was like, I had to have the belief that I could. Well, I had the belief in myself that I could do something, but I didn't know if that was sales. That's probably where it was. Like, is this going to be the best place for me to do that? So I did have that part of the growth mindset, but I didn't have a knowledge of growth versus fixed mindset in the first place. And I think that growth mindset helped me. But then when it came towards sales, I had to learn a little bit more why, get to a deeper understanding of why. And I think when I first read Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, this was a number of years into it, but it did solidify that motivation, and help me to understand why I needed a why, if that makes sense. And that helped me to perpetuate this cycle of self-improvement as I started off in sales. But the first step is, I feel, when it comes to the fixed versus growth, and maybe we could talk about what is that, the fixed versus growth. You mind giving you a TED talk for a sec?
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Let's go. Get BJ on the mic.
Let's talk about the difference between growth and a fixed mindset. Yeah. So a fixed mindset is basically saying that I am who I am, and my skills are what they are, and my thought process is what it is, and I don't change, and things don't change I can't change my environment. I can't change myself. And what this leads sellers to think is, well, I can't improve if I'm not making appointments, I'm never going to make appointments. My boss gave me a crappy area. The area is just bad, right? They're always looking for excuses. Contrast that to a growth mindset, which is someone who says, I haven't reached my potential. The reason I'm not making my KPIs is because I can learn how, I can improve, I can get better. And so a growth mindset is about saying that I can change, I can improve. And this causes sellers to be excited and motivated to learn because they believe that learning can be implemented and that they'll do better. It also makes them eager to get and accept feedback. What can I do better? Can we listen to my calls? Tell me what I should have said here. And so we teach this at the beginning of the semester because the rest of the semester is going to be hard.
Yeah.
And they're going to do their first role play and say, "Oh my goodness, like I'm bad. I thought I was going to be a good salesperson and I didn't know how to do this." We just remind them, "Hey, yeah, no one's good at first because we have a growth mindset and we know we can do better." So that's the main difference between the two. So that's kind of what we talk about at the beginning of class when we teach mindset is, hey, let's talk about the difference between a growth and a fixed mindset.
And I think you see the beautiful thing about this, and you mentioned in in one of our past episodes, we talked about the planning and how that was such an exciting thing for our students. But this, the planning topic it's not linear, or it doesn't just have a direct correlation only to sales. It ties to being a dad or a mom or a cousin or a son or a painter or whatever they want to do. And it's the same thing with this growth mindset. I feel it's applicable in all areas of their life because I can take that same growth mindset. I had that fixed mindset at some point. Well, I'm not good in math or I'm not good in science. Well, then I'm screwed. And I can always justify and blame it back on that. But if I said, no, I have a growth mindset, I'm Donald freaking Kelly. I can learn science. Let's go, physics. Like, then you figure out how I'm going to do that. And then you start just out, you may have to work a little bit harder than the average person that could do physics easily, but you believe that you can do better. And that applies. And I think that's why students gravitate towards it so much because, again, those two things, they can apply to their life and don't have to wait till they get a sales job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. This is one of the reasons it comes up often is because
Oh man, you just got me pumped from this TED talk. Let's go.
students are like, "Hey, I can implement this tomorrow." And a lot of them, they're in class. They're not super excited to be there. They woke up early. They're like, "I'm so excited, to go out and party with my friends tonight." Like it teaches them how to be in the moment, how to be excited about the mundane parts of life and saying that, hey, I'm excited when I wake up because I can be better today than I was yesterday. And so I think part of the reason it resonates with students so much is because it's applicable to everything, not just sales, but also because it's something they can implement tomorrow. And because it's something they're dealing with. They're all dealing with because at least in my class, they're all upper level electives. And so they're juniors and seniors and I'm like, oh, I've been doing this for so long. And so it resonates with them, which I think is one of the reasons, like you said, they like it so much.
Yeah. Well, I love this part where we're, going deeper into it now. How do we start developing this growth mindset, BJ? And I started alluding to that as we were mentioning this, and especially when I teach my students, I teach them about that, finding out their why, their motive. And the story I give, everyone has different stories, but for me, it literally was, I always go back to that parking lot. It was a Wendy's parking lot in Deerfield Beach, Florida. And bro, I was broke, BJ, and I'm in sales. And I was just kind of like, man, I felt so embarrassed because here I am. My mom was a single parent struggling. And then I went to college and now I'm back home and I got an apartment and now I'm begging her for money to help make the rent. I'm like, tell me what's wrong with this picture. And it was like, no, this needs to change. It needs to be the other way around. I need to help now that she sacrificed so much. My why was that I wanted to be able to help my family and to give back. And since it was something bigger than me, it made me get out of bed because it wasn't just like, hey, go and let's get money and go buy a car and whatever. It's like, I want to help other people. And because I had the strong enough motive, that started to propel me during those hard moments. You know what I mean?
So I love that you mentioned that why, because after we teach about a fixed and a growth mindset, then students are like, but what's the next step? Like, how do I develop a growth mindset? How do I get excited to make cold calls when I'm not excited to make a cold call?
I don't want to talk to people.
And that's the first thing we teach is well, first, what you need is a why to keep you motivated. And a lot of students are like, well, you mean like, I want to be rich and good looking forever. That's why I got into sales. And it can be related to money, but that's, like research shows that money's only motivating for so long. And so it's got to be, well, what can I do with the money? So Donald mentioned, helping his family. And for me, like I have a big family, I have 6 kids. And so that's very motivating. But I think it's okay to be honest about the things that motivate yourself, right? So some people are like, I love to travel. Like I love connecting with different cultures. Well, guess what? No one that's broke is traveling. And so
Airlines ain't taking beans and cookies.
that can be a great motivator, right? So some people are really motivated by fun, and I really want to be able to take this vacation. I really want to be able to buy this, 4-wheelers or whatever. Like, what are the things that motivate you? One thing I also teach my students is, can your why revolve around how you can help customers?
Interesting.
It's a lot easier to find the motivation to make a cold call if you're saying, hey, like I want to help my family, but also like I think the person on the other line could actually really benefit from the product that I'm selling.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to do a little bit of internal selling. You have to read those case studies that you tell customers. You have to read the customer reviews and say, oh my goodness, I remember Donald telling me like how this made such a difference in his company. And I think I want to call this person because I think that I can do something similar for them. So I would say like having a why around how your product can help people, and also just an internal why about what you're going to do with your career and your money. Those two things can be really motivating.
Oh man, I love the part there with the customer. I didn't think on that a lot, but I always look at it by saying somebody out there who could benefit from what we have to offer. But when you said it that way, I started visualizing a customer with a pain. So like, you and I were talking before this recording about the peelers, right? How somebody, maybe I'm using a knife to peel the potatoes, but what if somebody just said, oh, you're getting by with that, but when you're peeling potatoes, it would be so much easier to have a peeler, and they are using a knife. I just need to tell them. It's my moral obligation. That's what I look at it. It's my moral obligation to at least share it with you. And maybe you get educated and you act now and not now, but at least it needs to happen. But when you gave me that visual of your customer need this, they probably are doing it wrong. And I need to go out and tell them, I got them 5 seconds on a call. Let me tell them about this. You know what I mean? There's a better way than using knife, cutting yourself.
Absolutely. So, okay, so let's review. So far, we've talked about teaching about a growth and a fixed mindset. We've talked about developing a why, both kind of your internal why and also your why of how you can help customers. I think another really important and critical thing here is the learn, feedback, implement method, right? So this is something both me and Donald teach in our class is how do you teach students how to be excited about getting feedback and about learning and about implementing things? So we teach the learn, implement, feedback method. So I learned something. So I'm excited to listen to podcasts. I'm excited to read books. I'm excited to read our textbook because it's going to teach me something. But it's not enough just to know something. I have to implement it, right? So I listen to the podcast and say, hey, and of course I'm listening to the Sales Evangelist podcast.
Better. I was just getting ready to put a note in the episode here, like BJ,
saying,
what
hey,
are you listening to?
Donald had an awesome episode about what to say when the customer is concerned about price. And this is on my mind because I just listened to this episode, which I thought was fabulous.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And I'm going to try and implement that today. And I'm going to meet, or this week, I know tomorrow I have a call with someone. They're going to tell me about how price is a concern. So I'm going to try it, and I'm not going to do it great, but it's better than doing nothing. And then I'm going to ask for feedback. So then I'm going to send that clip to my boss or my coworker and say, hey, here, I tried to do this. Tell me what I could do better. And then this is a cycle. So learn, implement, feedback. And now it goes back to learn. my boss told me that I'm not very good at XYZ. I can have a fixed mindset and say, well, there's nothing I can do about it. Or I can say, hey, based on the feedback I got, let me learn how to do this skill, then let me implement it, and then let me get some feedback on how well I implemented it. And this becomes very motivating for students and for sellers as they see the things that they do making them better salespeople. And then every day becomes exciting because it's a day to learn and grow and get better, and in the end make more money, right? So that I can accomplish my whys.
Yeah. And I love the feedback loop concept of, it's very practical on a day-to-day level. Like today, I really just want to I really want to ask better questions, or I'm going to apply follow-up questions. I'm going to listen and then apply follow-up, listen, apply follow-up. And again, this is the practice, but it's that mindset of continual learning and continual improvement. And then the other side to that too, when it comes to the feedback loop, I think it's also beneficial to know that you don't know everything and you don't need to know everything, and you can get help, because once you start doing it, you start believing that I can learn more or I can improve. And if you have that belief, then you're always willing to ask for help or ask questions. And I find salespeople get to a point where they get pretty stagnant, where because they've done it for so long and they know so much, but they're not willing to ask anymore, because I don't want to seem like I'm incompetent, or I don't want to seem like I don't know what I'm doing or whatever. Maybe it's your level of pride or whatnot. But if you always have that feedback loop mentality, you recognize that I need constant improvement, you're going to be willing to ask for the help, and you're going to get the help. You know what I mean?
And the students are going to be able to be, or they're going to be more motivated to engage and
Yeah.
role play and not do a good job at first. And I love that you said that, Donald, because one of the ways I like to teach my students that is to tell them my own failures in sales, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes what happens is a professor, you teach a skill and then right after you teach it, you demonstrate it, and they're like, oh my gosh, like you're an amazing salesperson, right? Because they just learned it and they're struggling. How am I gonna do this? And maybe they role played and it didn't go well. And then you do it and they're like, oh my gosh, like that's great. Like you must never make mistakes. And then I tell them like, hey, like I was on a sales call last week that I totally botched, right? Like that's the truth, is that the customer said something to me, and I'm really, as I'm telling this now, I'm thinking of like a failure I had last week, which was, the customer said something that just totally threw me off and didn't really give a strong value proposition. Like I did a great discovery, but then I just totally botched the value prop, trying to teach them how, or trying to tell them how I can match what they wanted, because they said something that kind of threw me off, and then I just kind of imploded from there. And telling students like, hey, like I'm just like you, like I'm learning, I'm implementing, I'm getting feedback every day. And I had a sales call last week that I totally botched, and because I never had that scenario before and I didn't know what to say, and it kind of caught me off guard. But you know what I did? I just evaluated. I had tried to have a growth mindset, say, yeah, like I did terrible and I lost like thousands of dollars, but like I'm going to do better next time. And so I love that you mentioned that, because I think it's critical for students to see like the humanity in both the student and the professor.
Yeah. I think I had and we have some professors who are teaching this who probably say I never did formal selling. I know I met some of them at the conference we went to with Stukin, right? And though they didn't do it. They maybe got into it and love sales. One of the things that I learned was I spoke to her today too, my speaker coach, and her son said to her at one point, when I was doing Toastmasters a lot, it was like, how come you're teaching Donald and you never coaching Donald, and you've never, won like, championships or anything of that nature? And I think she had a hard time trying to explain to him for a second. And, but it came back down to, it's like, you don't need to have to be the winner in order to be a great coach. You know what to do, and you can help people understand that. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
again, I always love looking at MJ. I think MJ is the best player. We won't go into that debate. All times, even right before Iverson, and LeBron can be underneath Iverson. but um, but then he wasn't the greatest coach when he was coaching, because you don't have to be a great player to be a great coach. I think there's two different skill sets there. And so when I go back into with some of these professors, you probably got called, you're in this position right now, you got they said they need to teach this marketing class at your university, and you're like, sales class, and you're like, what do I do? Besides listening to our episodes and getting our courseware, you don't have to speak from that experience like BJ and I, but you can speak to the understanding of the principle. And I think that's a level of confidence that people can walk away with, that students can walk away with, knowing that you understand the principle well enough to educate on it, because you have a growth mindset. You know what I
I
mean?
love that. Yeah, I think that's spot on, is being able to tell students, hey, yeah, I've never sold anything, but
But
like
in practicality, they probably have, because
yeah,
they have a partner, they are married or something, or they went on a date before, or they just got their fantasy football league to buy a $300 trophy. My buddy's trying to do that right now for us, so we can.
yes, you're spot on. Being able, like, students appreciate those personal experiences, even if they're not contextualized exactly to sales, or if you're also, teaching marketing research and you've never done research before, or you're teaching accounting and you're like, hey, I graduated in accounting, I know accounting, I've never been an accountant. Like most of our accounting professors, they've never worked as accountants, right? But like they know so much about accountants and accountancy, and I think it's finding your groove,
Mm-hmm.
and as a professor, having a growth mindset and saying,
Yes.
hey, I can do this. I can learn how to do this. I can take some of my unique experiences and I can implement them in the classroom, even though it may not be a perfect match.
Yeah. And as we come to the end, wrap up here of this, BJ, what else do we want to get a professor to leave with when it comes to understanding mindset and how important that is in the sales arena?
Yeah, this is going to sound a little strange, but I told you that at the beginning, that my motivation and my excitement around this topic has grown as I've taught it more, because I've got more feedback from it. Here's what I think is interesting, is that the more excited I am to teach it, the more students like learning about it. And so I would just say that I know this is kind of a unique topic that maybe isn't taught in the traditional sales textbook. So a professor may be saying, hey, or a professor listening may be saying, I kind of want to try this, but it may not work well. And I would say that it's going to work as well as the students think that you're drinking the mindset Kool-Aid. Just be excited about it, teach it, tell some stories about some things that you've done in your life, and students are going to gravitate towards that. And I found that the rest of my semester goes lots better, because when students start to get discouraged, I can remind them, hey, yeah, you didn't do well in the first exam. That doesn't mean that you don't know sales. It just means you need to do some things different.
Yeah.
And I believe you can do that.
And I think I love that part, and especially you believing in them. You've seen the activities. The activities tell you the fruits, the tree's good. So, you can motivate them at that point. But I would feel pumped if my professor say, I know you can do it, based on what I've seen. You're going to improve. I'm going to have that confidence to move forward. And I think that's where, this is a whole nother episode. That's why coaching is so important when it comes to sales, like coaching your sales team and coaching in your case, your students, so that they can continue to move forward. But it all comes back down to everything we do is the mindset. It's going to help you in the tough times. It's going to help you in the good times. Mindset is critical. Mindset is important. And the better we are at that, at understanding it and adopting it as sales leaders and as educators, the better off those that we work with are going to be.
Yes. Well, thank you for coming to me and Donald's TED Talk today.
Go buy our book and hire us to speak at your corporate motivational event, and come to our conference in Palm Beach as we walk on coals. No offense, Tony. BJ, if there's one thing you want leaders to leave with today, what's the one major piece of advice?
Is that students will appreciate you teaching them how to think like a salesperson, how to be a successful salesperson, not just how to do things that salespeople do, but how to think like a successful salesperson. And that will benefit them even if they don't go into sales.
Love it. And I ditto that, and amen to that. If you enjoyed our podcast today, definitely go to our Substack and you can check out some of the stuff that we have there. And also check out our courseware in the show notes, where you can see what BJ and I teach when it comes towards mindset for our students. But until next time,
good luck selling.
See you on the next one, guys.